I wonder if I can make this good too. Just full screen. Hold on a sec. Enter full screen. There we go. Okay, so full screen. I don't know if it shows it all the way, but anyway, this is net to seller, which the first number, of course, is going to be purchase price. And I wanted to give you all the calculations so that you would know them on a worksheet. And then I'm going to show you on my Excel or numbers worksheet how this works. But if you think about it, basically, it's going to be that purchase price. And then anything that gets deducted is less the cost to close. So it's the commission, which is purchase price times commission. Transfer tax, which we all know, it's the purchase price times that 0.001%. That is, every seller is going to pay a transfer tax. So that's in there. And so when a seller says to you, how much am I going to have to pay out of my pocket? You will always tell them you're going to have to pay transfer tax, you're going to have an attorney fee, and you're going to have prorated taxes. I mean, you just cannot escape it. Those are your three things that are definitely coming out of your purchase of your sales price. The other thing is the commission. So that way, when my clients see the commission, I generally run it at 6%, but I have it purchase price times commission. So it's whatever that commission rate is. I put in home warranty, but then I put in parentheses, if agreed. Attorney fee, I've got estimate. I usually kind of go by what I start seeing. So I think currently I have like 250, maybe 300. So it's whatever y'all think that attorney fee is going to be, or whatever you see your title company charges. And then other expenses are any seller paid closing cost. So if they've agreed to pay termite, or if they've agreed to pay repairs, or if they've negotiated something different. Some agents used to write in just $5,000 because they would say, based on any repairs that I've seen, or anything that comes across, or if somebody asks for something, then generally I see $5,000 tends to cover all repairs. It could be less, it could be more, but that's general. So then that gives me my total closing cost, and then I'm going to find out what their mortgage payoff is. I've found that most people don't really know sometimes what their balance is on their mortgage, but usually I'll have them go and get a copy of their mortgage statement so that we can look it up, or they'll go online and look it up. It's not an exact payoff because interest is charged in arrears. But it is going to give you a good general amount. So we'll put that number in there of whatever their mortgage payoff is. So then the estimated net to seller is their purchase price minus their closing cost minus their mortgage balance. Then that's the amount that they are going to get at closing. Okay. Once we've worked everything out. Does anybody have any questions or thoughts on that? If I left something out? Is everybody good? Okay, so now I'm going to go to my worksheet, and let me pull one up for you guys. Okay, so here's a seller net sheet. So I'm going to pull this one up, and I'm going to go to a full screen. So here's my full screen. And so I had this guy call me and was thinking about listing his property. And sometimes I do this just in a conversation on the phone, like if I'm talking to somebody and I can use RPR, I can look up their home real quickly. And I might say, because he was wanting to find out, like I may be listing in the next couple of weeks, still trying to figure out what I might net, And so I'll just kind of, as I start asking questions and talk to him about payoff, what he owed on it, then I'm able to just go directly into my worksheet. And like I said, I can change this number to anything. So if it was another house and I said, I think we could sell your house for $225, you can see I've already got my commission in there at 6%. So it already computed that. I've got my transfer tax set at 0.001 times B5 because there's my sales price. So that's already in there. I've got my attorney fee. For some reason, I bumped it up to 500. I think it's about 300. It all depends. Sometimes there's doc prep, and so I put it on the high end. So there's the total closing cost, which is a sum of that column right there. So my total closing cost is 14,225. Then I put his mortgage balance in there at 85,000. So he essentially would walk away with about 125,000, pretty much. And if you go and compare this to a closing statement from the Alta, it's going to be really close to that, because there's just not a whole lot of changes. And what if he says, you know what, I think I'd rather go down in my price. What if if I'm okay netting 120,000? Well, if you go on down to like 220, then he's going to get down to closer to that 120,000. Because honestly, it doesn't change my commission. It doesn't change the transfer tax, doesn't change attorney fee. So his closing costs just adjust a little bit. His payoff is going to stay the same. So I just changed one number, and that gets us closer to what that number is. Let's say we get an offer of 215,000, then I'm going to change it to 215,000. And let's say they asked for a home warranty. So I'm going to put in 675 there. Then I can tell him pretty immediately what his net is going to be, with the payoff still being about the same. So I love my worksheets. All I do is keep this worksheet in here, and I just change the name up here at the top, the address, and as if I'm going to a listing appointment, because I have found that a lot of times people in listing appointments want to know. So I might take a general number and at least show them what the common closing costs are and give them a scenario of what that's going to look like. But I can change this. I can do it on my phone. Like I can pull up files on my phone. I can pull up this estimated net, and I can run numbers anywhere, anytime, whenever. But does anybody have any questions about that? Is anybody used to Excel worksheets as far as putting the, like my formula is mostly going to be at my commission, which is sales price times that. If I'm going to reduce my commission and I want to change it, then I can do that. If I want to only, let's say they want to only pay me 3%, and then we're going to negotiate seller's thing, then I could run it at, I can do the B6 times 0.01 if they only pay 1%. Oh, wait a second. What did it do? B6 times 0.01. Is that right? Oh, it's B5. Sorry. B5. Helps if you get the right numbers in there. B5. B5. Okay. So then they want to pay a 1%. So here I would say 1% to the selling agent. So then, then they net that. So I can add any calculations in there that I want. I added that home warranty. Let's say we don't want to do that home warranty, then it's going to change that number again. So just allows you to kind of show what that does. Does anybody have any questions about that? Or
I do.
Yes.
I'd like to know do you use the B5 times the number on all the way down?
No, it's only the things that are affiliated with that sales price, which would be commission and transfer tax, are the only two things that are tied to the sales price.
Okay, so that's okay. Everything else would stay stationary.
Yes. Yeah, because your transfer tax is, so like if you go back to our net sheet, the only two things that are affiliated with your purchase price is the commission and the transfer tax. Now, on the tax, did that answer your question, Janet?
Yes, thank you.
Now I do try to go in and do the tax as well. Hold on, let's see here again. I will go back and I'll add the tax in there as well. Again, I do basic math. So on my worksheet here, I've got prorated taxes are January 1 to the closing date. However, If you're in Fayette County, taxes are January through June 30th, and then July 1, isn't that right? June, yeah, through June 30th and July 1 through December 1. So in Fayette County, if you close in August, that January through July has already been paid. And so then you would prorate it from August till whenever in Fayette County. So I don't compute the taxes until the end, but it gives me a chance to, when I'm talking to my seller, to let them know, and think about this, to let them know that they have to pay the taxes at closing. Recently I had somebody say, but aren't we paying those into escrow? Yes, they are paying them into escrow, but it has to be reconciled at closing. When you think about closing is like, it's an absolute date. And so they have to reconcile taxes at that time, and then they push those taxes on to the new owner. And so your seller is actually going to give a credit to the buyer at closing for the taxes that they still owe, because nothing gets collected till the end of the year. And so that's why I will tell them they're going to collect taxes. And at the beginning of the year, it's easy because it's like January till February, 2 months worth of taxes. That's it. But when we get later in the year, it gets harder just because it's a lot more money. But I tell them you'll have to pay them at closing, but then your escrow will come out of your mortgage when your mortgage is paid, and you're going to get reimbursed for the money that's being held in escrow for taxes and insurance. So it'll actually, at the end of the day, they may net less, but they will get a check from their mortgage company for what's being held in escrow. And it will offset this amount typically, because they always keep a buffer in there. So it's always going to be a little bit more than what the actual numbers are. Does that make sense about taxes? So I will go in there and compute taxes, but I just go in there and manually put it in. I used to have it as a calculation, but the taxes are always different, and I just add it in at the last minute.
Do you go in and get to the PVA to get the exact taxes, or where do you get the exact taxes?
I look at what their taxes are, because everybody is assessed differently, Janet. So I go to whatever so if I'm in 2024, I'll look at their 2023 tax bill and use that number, unless they tell me that it's gone up like everybody's did this past year. So if they know what their taxes are, then I'll use that. But yes, I will look at PVA, or I'll go into my RPR and I'll look at what their tax, because it'll give the tax for that previous year, and I just use that number. But again, I'm always remind them, I mean, my numbers aren't exact. Because numbers could change, so that for 2024, the taxes would be different. So this is general information, but it's helpful because it helps them to see what it is and how it works. But yes, I get it typically from RPR, so it shows that tax bill.
So you're actually deducting the amount that you see paid, not the percentage.
Well, so yeah, if their tax bill is $2,800 and we're going to close in August, then I can make a calculation in here and say 2,800 divided by 12 times 6.5. I mean, that'll give me through mid-June if I'm closing in June. So that's how much their taxes are going to be.
Perfect. Thank you.
So I will take whatever their total tax is, divide it by 12, and multiply it by months. I don't get into days. I mean, you could if you wanted to. And when we go to the buyer net sheet, I do get into days. Instead of dividing by 12, I divide by 365 to get my daily tax. So I do that on another sheet, but I'm not going to get into days on taxes. I just get into half months and full months.
Do you print that out for them?
Do what?
Do you print that out for them?
I do.
So
I
do
should
you have
have-
like somewhere on there that you put like, I'm driving, so I wasn't able to like zoom in yet. Do you put somewhere on there that like this is an estimated amount?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
At the top
that-
of, yep, at the top of my sheet, it just says estimated net proceeds.
okay, good. Cause I was
Yeah.
like, you know how people are. Well, you
Oh,
said.
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The other thing I like about this, you guys, is that I also use this for my multiple offers back in 2021. So that because you can add, columns. And so and then you can just copy and paste, you can copy and paste, what you've got. And so then let's go over here and let's say, let's say I got 3 offers, right? So let's say I got 3 offers on this house that I listed for 225,000. Then I can go to the first column and I can say offer number 1. And let's say it was for 227. And then offer number 2. So I'll use this in my multiple offers and it makes my life so much easier.
Wow.
220. And then let's say this one was 227. And if it had an escalation clause, I would say offer number 3 with escalation. And let's say it was based on this offer and it went up to 230, then I'll add, to what this one goes up. So all of a sudden it's like, well, now this one is 230,000. So I'll use this in my multiple offer, and that way at the very bottom, they can see, and let's say one of them, asked for home warranty, but then another one didn't ask for a home warranty. And then one asked for 2,000 in closing cost. And so you can put all of that in there, like this one didn't ask for closing cost. And then this one, ask for, because sometimes you don't know in looking how it impacts your bottom line. So if somebody wants to pay a home warranty, and then let's say this one asked for a home warranty and it asked for closing costs of $5,000, but they escalated up to 230, then all of a sudden I can see how that changes my numbers. And for people that are bottom line numbers, then they can look at that and go, well, gosh, that's the one I want. But then we can go up and look at other terms because I have contingencies, close date, personal items that are going to remain, earnest money, inspections, financing, expiration of contract. So I might put financing, as one being FHA and one being conventional, but then I would put down how much they're putting down as well, so that they know how much they're putting down. Because, we might want to say, well, this one at 129 is actually a stronger offer because they didn't have a contingency, or maybe they're conventional with 50% down. So, even though I might get $2,000 more, but you know what it allows me to do? It allows me to go back to this one with the escalation and figure out, is there a way for me to get $2,000 more out of that person? What can I take away if I reach out to that agent and say, hey, if you'll knock out the home warranty and we don't have to pay a home warranty, all of a sudden that gets my number up to 129, and then say, and we'll pay $4,000, then all of a sudden I'm getting really close to the other. So it gives you some of that negotiating power as well to be able to see those numbers. And again, they're not perfect, but they allow you to be conversational with what you're negotiating.
I
Right?
love this.
Because all we see is purchase price, and then we see what other things they've asked for. But to be able to see it, I'm a visual and I am a numbers person. So what seems like maybe a really good offer may not be as good as something else, depending on some of those other things. And, even getting that due diligence period down to a more manageable time period may be the key. So anyway, those are, again, it's just helpful. And that's what I love about these worksheets, because they make it flexible. And the information to me is it's just super helpful. Does anybody have any questions about that? Do people understand how to make those calculations, or can I help with that?
I would love to have, can we share this where I won't, can we share
Right.
this documents here?
Yeah, the main thing there is I'll have to know how people want it, because I can share it as an Excel worksheet, I can share it as a numbers worksheet, and I can share it as a CSV
Is
file.
it not a Google? Is it not a Google sheet?
It's not a Google
Okay.
sheet.
Okay.
I don't know how to
Like
make it a Google sheet. I'm not a big Google person.
Are you gonna be at the office for a minute?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Because like really, I think, and do you have formats in there
yes,
where it's calculating it for
yes.
you?
yes,
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And those calculations are on this sheet that I'm
Okay.
gonna, that everybody, I can pass out an email. So if y'all are, if you're, I'll give you, like, I'll age myself here, but Lotus 123 was the predecessor to Excel. And when I got out of college, Lotus 123 was the big spreadsheet for everybody to do spreadsheets. And so I got trained on Lotus 123 as I went into the workforce. And Lotus 123 was the predecessor to Excel. And so then Excel was the big worksheet that everybody started using, and whoever bought them, Microsoft, I guess, bought them. Then Apple came up with their own version of a worksheet, which is numbers, and they all work the same with a few little quirky things. So, but these are all basic calculations. So my first calculation is my commission. And my main thing is wherever my sales price is, I put that in as B5 times 0.03 or 0.06. I mean, because again, it's like basic math. And, if you don't trust yourself, get your calculator out and figure it in person, and then make sure your calculation is right. I think they also make it easy enough that you can click on one number, click on another number, and tell it to multiply. But I don't, anyway, but you can do it that way as well. And then my tax proration, that one I entered manually if you wanted to set it up, but you're gonna have to change the tax amount every time. So you could keep in the, divided by 12 and multiplied, and but you're always gonna have to change these numbers in there.
I had a spreadsheet like this from Holbrook, and Holbrook had given us at one point,
Really?
and they had two tabs. They had one for Fayette County and then one for all other counties. And
Yeah.
it calculated the taxes for
Yeah.
you.
And
Yours got a lot more on it.
Yeah.
Better, but I liked their tab. because
Yeah.
then Fayette County separated it out.
And transfer tax is that 0.1% of the purchase price, so it's always gonna be the B5 times 0.001. So that one's never gonna change unless they vote a different transfer tax, that could change. Attorney fees, like I said, I've got it pretty high. And then, again, I added that just now, but normally I don't do a separate seller closing cost. I usually just do 6% up at the top. But again, if we want to give our guys options, then we can show them what that difference would be. Okay. And I'm happy to share any of this. I don't know how to share the calculations other than share them on this sheet that I have I do have in my computer and I can send. So if you know how to set up a basic worksheet, these would be your calculations. Now, when we get on the buyer's side, it's a little more involved. It's a longer worksheet, but we're going to go into that one next. But is everybody good with this? Does everybody understand? I would love to be able to teach a basic, and I don't mind teaching some basic stuff if anybody has any questions about setting that up.
Hey, Tyanne,
Yes.
if anybody wants this in a Google sheet, I can have my husband do it tomorrow,
Okay.
mail it out if anybody wants it in the Google sheet, and he can go ahead and do all the sales where it's already.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
thinking that if I'm able to make it back to the office, that I think there's a way to just like share what she has and put it into a Google sheet directly with the formats and what do they call that?
I think it's just the sales, their
Another group.
program.
No, there's a man, my brain's not working, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it in today, but I think that would be
Okay.
easiest to
And
share.
I can also, Cassie,
Yeah.
check with Matt, and then I'll check with Summer, and if Summer can do it as a Google worksheet, she's pretty good about that.
Okay.
She might be able to get it up into Google worksheet for me.
Yeah, I would love to be able, I'll ask my husband, but I would love to be able where it's the prorated taxes, like if you could put in the county or, you know, the taxes that
Yeah.
are on the house, a percentage, and then put in like move-in date or something, and you could calculate, hey, if we're closing on this date, this would be your prorated taxes. I could have him do that.
Because we probably could set up that like on one of these lower lines where it would prorated the tax and then it would pick it up. So, you know, where we could put Jefferson, we could put Fayette
Fayette.
County, and then we could put surrounding counties. Because isn't Fayette County the only one that does? Yeah, yeah. So we could do that and put Fayette and then put other counties. And then you would just have it fed to this line, so that this line would be, you know, either B 2035 or B 36, depending on which number you use. So it's easy enough to set up those calculations. The calculations aren't hard. It's just the, you know, feeding it. But yeah, so that, you know, but again, I'm going back to, you know, if it's a $500,000 house, I just pick up that tax amount. I don't try to take what the 1.26 times purchase price, because the tax is not based on their sales price, except for the new owner. I'm talking about what they're responsible for, which it could be assessed at whatever their value is. Because they could have a $500,000 house, but their assessment, it may only be a $300,000 at $300,000. All they're responsible for as the seller is what their tax value is, not what the new owner's tax is going to be as they go in and it gets assessed at that higher amount.
Yeah, that's true.
It's always going to be based on that lower amount. I mean, right now it's lower. If we flip markets, it could be other, but right now it's lower. So, but yeah, that could definitely be done. And then that could just be, you know, like if I made this just equal to B 35, then it's going to pick up whatever number gets down there in that calculation. Right now it's 0, but if I were to set up something where it would calculate it, it would pick that number up. And that's what I love about worksheets, because it just picks up whatever you tell. It's like a basic computer. You're telling it what it needs to do, but it's thinking for you, but based on the information you put in. Okay. But yeah, I'll talk to Summer about making it a Google, and then I can do the calculation for the taxes. Probably. That's not, I mean, it's not hard. It's just getting it in there.
Question.
Yeah.
I was wanting probably to get it in different formats, just because some clients may not be able to look at it in certain formats. I mean, I don't know that what I'm talking about here, because I'm not the tech person, but I'm just thinking, what if they don't have access to numbers, you know, but they have access to Excel, you know, that kind of, I'm just thinking, what do you think?
Well, and that's why on the Google Docs, you would have to do it in Google Docs. But if you're an Excel person, then I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe that if you were to open it up and I had it in numbers, it might convert it. Does that make sense? Like, Mary, if I were to send this to you, do you think you could open it up in Excel, even if it were, but I can share it with Mary in Excel.
You wanna try it?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know I can,
Yeah.
because I can, if I click share,
I think Excel is going to be probably the most likely one I would use.
I
Probably.
don't want to collaborate with you, so I'm just gonna send it, and if I mail it, I think I can, yeah. For Mary, I can send it as a, it's gonna go out as a numbers worksheet, and she's gonna see if she can, when she opens it, if it'll convert. Okay, but I can also send it as an
Excel.
Excel. Yeah.
Count me in. I
See.
know I got this in the past, but I got it to where it would accidentally change your numbers. So that's why I know I need it again.
Yeah, yeah. Hold on. So, let's see. And I do think this worksheet is good. I'm gonna send this to you guys. I'm not gonna collaborate. This is just in my notes. But if I emailed this, like to Cassie and Meg and Rachel and Misty and Lisa. And I know Leanne is in there. Let's see. Leanne Parks. I know I've got Leanne in there. Leanne, how do you spell your name? Let's see.
It spells funny, but my email is LA Parks. You've got an E in there, I think, maybe, but it's spelled Leigh is my normal.
But it's LA Parks.
It's 9 at Yahoo. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. What else is in here? Okay, did I get everybody in there?
Janet Jones, the realtor,
And
please.
Janet and Dustin, I think, is in here too. I've got Janet Jones, and I think Dustin is in here too. But this is just the, oh, Dustin is the epic. The epic agent. Yeah, and then I think I had Mary in here too. And then Sierra, I think, was in here. Let's see, Sierra.
Hmm.
Do I not have Sierra? Is Sierra still on the phone? I don't know Sierra's email. What is hers? I don't know Sierra. Oh, well.
Sierra's is C Hagedorn at Remax.net.
She's out of the country.
EDORN.
2 Gs.
C
Oh, I didn't see.
HAGEDORN. At Remax.net.
We'll see if that one goes through. Ooh, I've got a 3 in there. Oh. Okay, let's see if that one goes through. Okay. So I'm gonna put net to seller worksheet. Now, Mary came in and I'm gonna see if she can open that one. See if it'll convert. She's gonna see if it converts because I send it as a numbers document and see if it'll convert. And then while she does that, I'm gonna go to this other one, which is my buyer cash to close. Oh, buyer, oh, so much more.
Yikes.
Enter full screen. Okay, so on our buyer, as you can see, we've got a lot more numbers to fill in. And there's a lot of just unknowns, but it's basically the same. We've got a purchase price, we've got a down payment, which is typically a percentage, and then we have a loan amount. And so I've got a calculation in my work. When we go to the worksheet, you're going to see it, but it's, purchase price, down payment, loan amount. Your purchase price is minus the down payment to come up with your loan amount. Pest inspection fee, my guide typically is $75. I use state standard, so that's the number I've plugged in. So whoever you use, you can put whatever you want there. I have the appraisal fee, and I have sometimes paid out of pocket. More times than not, it is paid out of pocket. So when you see OOP, sometimes you'll see that on a closing worksheet, and that just means out of pocket, OOP. And because a lot of times, most of you all, your buyers have to charge it to their credit card when it's done, and that way it's paid. But if your buyers want to know a general amount, I think I have it on my worksheet at $500 for an appraisal fee. Home warranty is, and I've got optional next to that because that's optional. Attorney fee is different, prorated taxes, which are going to be a little bit different because honestly, if y'all remember this, I think from real estate school and the real estate exam, your prorated taxes are you actually, most buyers are going to get a credit from the seller because it dumps in as a credit, but it's they're going to get credited from the seller. And then at the end of the year, their mortgage company is going to pay those taxes in full. So when we get down to the escrowed amount or impounds or whatever people are calling them these days, I call them prepaid items, then you're going to see where they're going to start collecting taxes in advance. But I do have prorated taxes and generally it's a credit. And then a credit report, these are charges that lenders charge. Credit report of 15, doc prep usually from your title company is about 150, sometimes 200. You know, if you do power of attorney, then it's another $75. If it's mail away, it's another 150. So, you know, you can add in some of those other fees if you know that they're going to be popping up.
What was those numbers? You said the extra fees possibly?
Well, the last one that I tried to do, power of attorney, it was $75 to add a power of attorney. And then it was an additional 150 to do a mail away. And that was with True Title.
So
And-
if somebody does, what if they do this is a I may probably need to ask Jody this question, but if somebody does they want to do it from a webcam with a notary, is that kind of like a mail away cost as well?
I just did that.
What was your fee? It's been a couple years since I've done one of those webcam ones.
$200.
200.
Okay, I need to let my client know that you might change your mind. I've got one that wants to do that now.
Yeah, and those are fees that, now, usually it's been sellers that have had to deal with that, and we really don't get down to that until I start finding out whether or not they're gonna be there for closing. Most of your buyers, they want them to be at closing because of the volume of documents.
Right.
It's hard to do a closing for a buyer somewhere else. I did one time in Alabama. They were coming from Montana. They had to go to a title company in Montana to sign their documents. But that was 8 years ago, 9 years ago. So could be different now. So for buyers, it's a lot different. For sellers, it's super easy. It's only like 3 to 5 documents. Pretty easy to do that. But for buyers, especially if there's a loan involved, they want them there at closing.
So the sellers, they had a mobile notary come to their house.
Okay.
And it was $225, but my buyers did it online.
Okay.
Virtually through True Title, and theirs was only $150. So they
Okay.
saved money by not having anybody come to their house.
She said the mobile notary was $225 for the
Seller.
for the seller,
Mhm.
$225, and then for the
The buyer.
camera one with the
uh,
buyer was
150.
was 150.
Through True Title.
I know, and I think the thing with the notary is $75 because I think by the time they do the documents and then record it, it's something like that. It just, that's what it covers for the notary. Was it able to convert that document?
I'm not.
If you
It
click,
automatically no.
were you able to open it?
Yeah, no,
Okay,
not as numbers.
Okay.
neither is numbers.
so I'll have to send it as an Excel.
It's installing.
Okay, so yeah, some of those fees for buyers and sellers are, of course, are gonna show up once you talk to the title company when it comes to some of those things, but generally doc prep is like 150. Flood cert, I left it off, but it's generally like, it's generally like $35 for a flood cert. I think they have to run that on every property, so I think that's in there. I've got lenders miscellaneous fees of 350. I can't explain lender fees. I just go by what I see. Loan origination fees, Y'all, back in the day, we ran all of them at 1%. I know now those origination fees change, but generally if you run it at 1%, it's gonna be pretty close to it. It's generally 1% of the loan amount, not the purchase price, but of the loan amount. Recording fees, I've got 125. I think in some areas it's like 150. Septic inspection, of course, is gonna generally be out of pocket. Survey could be thousands of dollars. I hate surveys. In Alabama, in Birmingham, we could get surveys for $250, $300. And we did them with just about every transaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we had tons of surveyors. And I think that's the problem, is that Kentucky stopped requiring surveys. And so they've not been as common over the last 20 years. So they have to do a lot more research and stuff for them. And that's why the cost is so high. Yeah.
I've recently had one that I had to get done at the last minute.
Yeah.
That was, I got it done for 1,500, but another company that was referred by one of the people from involved it was like 4,000, and it was gonna be months out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so just so you know, there's some woo stuff out
Yeah,
there.
they can be really expensive, but Birmingham is more metropolitan area, so and I think if you go up to Louisville, they're a lot more common as well, and maybe only like $500, but I think it just depends on your areas. But yeah, I was shocked at how much surveys were here. I couldn't believe it. I've not done very many surveys here because it's so expensive. Underwriting fee, I put it again at like 350. I mean, y'all, that's kind of just like throwing a dart, but they do charge something for underwriting fees, so I put that number in there. And then other fee or points, which is kind of where we've gotten now, is where we buy down something. So a point used to be 1% of a loan amount, but now they've got them all changed. Like, you've probably heard your lender say 1.25 for 3 points, which would be like 3.75. But so I know that it's different, but you could just add in, generally in that case, I've asked my lender, like, how much is it going to be for points? And that gives you total closing costs. Then when I get to my escrow, which are my prepaid items, I've got the homeowner's insurance. Generally, they want 1 year and 6 months. So I'll find out from my buyer. Actually, I just generalize all of it. I put most of them at $1,500 a year for homeowner's insurance. It could be up to $1,800. And then if it's like, a $500,000 house, it could be $2,400, $2,800, depending on the price of the home. So we used to quote in like homeowners insurance at about, for something small, like $800 a year, but I think those days are gone. I think everybody knows that insurance has gone up. And so the minimum I'll quote anybody is about $1,200 to $1,500 on homeowners insurance. And when I say quote, I'm not quoting. I'm just saying generally, if I'm showing somebody a $250,000 house that's all brick, then I would guesstimate about $1,500 to $1,800 a year for insurance. A lot depends on the age and all of that, but that's where I'll start, is $1,500 to $1,800. But in your prepaid items, they're going to want 1 year plus 6 months, and that's what's going to go into escrow. Prepaid interest, there's my calculation. It is C is my loan amount. So it's going to be loan amount times interest rate, 0.075 or whatever, divided by 365 times the number of days left in the month from closing. So if we are closing on the 18th then, and there's 30 days in the month, then it's going to be 12 days of interest. So what happens here is you start realizing it's a lot better if you close at the end of the month, because it's a lot less interest but you can see where you get that daily rate, is you take the loan amount times the interest divided by 365. That's going to give you a daily interest rate, and then multiply that by however many days. If you're closing on the 5th, it's going to be 25 days or 26 days. If you're closing on the 18th, then it's the 12 days. So, and then taxes to escrow. I take the tax amount divided by 12 and multiply by 6. Usually I see 6 months worth of taxes is what they want to put in as their cushion for the escrow. It could be different. Different lenders charge different things. So remember, this is estimated and it's just a guesstimate. And again, I find that most of the time I find out that most buyers, I just say your closing costs are going anywhere from $8,000 to $10,000. That's just it. You know, after a while, you're just like, these numbers just get in there and it's pretty much going to be $8,000 to $10,000. So, but there's your total prepaid items. And the biggest thing is just for your buyer to understand that that is escrowed. That is what starts them off as kind of a savings plan for payment of their taxes and insurance. Okay. And so that every year they don't have to worry about paying taxes and insurance, their escrow, their mortgage company will be paying it out of escrow. But that's why those numbers are going to go into prepaid items. So then my cash to close is my down payment, which is item number B, my closing costs, which is D, because there's that number, and then my prepaid items, which is E. And so those numbers are in there. So then my estimated cost to close is B plus D plus E minus my earnest money, and that's how much money they're going to have to bring to closing. So it's just a calculation. And let me see if I can find I had one, and then let's see where it is. Here we go. Estimated cash to close. This is with one of my clients. Okay, so looks a little bit different just because I used a different type of worksheet, but estimated cash to close. I've got a little buyer. We looked at a house in Winchester, and here's where the two worksheets help. If I see that my seller is going to net about $120,000, and then we go and we look at a house to buy, and so they're going to use part of that money as their down payment. They can decide, do I want to keep out $10,000 to do some painting or whatever? That allows me to put $115,000 down. So that's what I'm going to do. And that way I can kind of set aside some money to do some improvements. That's the value. And in fact, I just worked with a first-time home buyer, and that's why it was so important when we came to price and closing costs. When he was looking at what he wanted to put down, he had somebody to play with and debated on, do I put $45,000? Do I only put $35,000 so we can buy new furniture? So it became key to know how to run those numbers for him so that he could figure out how flexible his numbers would be. And that's what we did. We looked at down payment because I use another tool for my estimated payments, but it allowed us to look, and he could see how it impacted his closing costs, which was very little. Whether he put $45,000 down or $35,000 down, his closing costs didn't change a whole lot. So in this case, she was cash, so it was $285,000, and she was paying $285,000. But let's say we're only going to put $50,000 down, then there again, there's my loan amount now. It automatically calculated my loan amount. I'm going to just key in my interest rate at 6.125 because I just think rates have gone down. And has anybody gotten a 6% yet? Maybe.
5.99.
Yep.
And I just
So,
got a 5.5.
oh, I love that. That's great. Conventional, Janet?
The 5.99 was conventional, 5.5 is FHA.
Okay,
Nice.
that's great. I love it.
And they're thinking it's going to go down 1/4% probably after Wednesday, and it won't be effective until Friday.
Okay,
And the clients that get the best within a 10-day period is when they really get the benefit.
yeah. Oh, that's great. That's super. I saw 6.125 come across my computer on something I was looking at, and I was like, oh, that's a good rate. So 6.125, and you can see when I did that, it automatically changed some of my calculations down here. So again, I've got my pest inspection. I haven't changed it, so I'm going to make it $75 now. My appraisal, I've actually put in $600 because maybe I saw that it was gone up. I don't have a tax proration in there because I really don't want to compute tax for them at this point because they're going to get that credit. So it's actually going to offset. I'm just not gonna worry about that. So I'll let that just kind of be one of those numbers that floats around. There's that credit report. Here's my doc prep fee. If there are dues,
What's the fire? I don't understand what that is.
well, in some cases, this probably was in Alabama somewhere, but there were fire dues. Yeah, in fact, where I lived, I had to pay fire dues, library dues, and something else, but I was out in the county. So depending on where you live, so that's why I have fire, garbage. Um, we called them dues, but fees, you could change that over to fees, but any fees that get prorated, HOA fees, that's what
Mhm.
would be in there. So I could change that, but we did them as dues. All of those, because all of those got prorated at closing, but typically that's going to be your HOA fees here.
Ty, Tyanne, I just want to tell everybody out there, if you, I can't believe it, but Danny's Pest Control, Danny's Termite Pest Control, they're in line out of Lancaster. They charge $60, even if they go to Richmond, $60.
Wow.
Other
That's
people are charging me 70. Other people are they're saying, well, if I have to go to Richmond, I'm going to charge you 100, or I'm going to charge you 125. So I just want you to know they are the fairest out there.
That's good to know. I typically have used state standard, but yeah, I may call Danny's.
Yeah, they're very wonderful to work with.
Good. And they'll do the treatments as well or give estimates.
Yep. They do the treatments, and they will give you a year warranty with that treatment.
Let's see, and you can see here, it took that loan origination fee is B7, the loan amount, times 0.01. So that's where that went in, that's where that one came from. Recording fees didn't change. Y'all, my title fees, I adjust based on the purchase price of the home. If it's 285,000, I'd probably do 1,500. And then underwriting fee of 350. And then I was talking to somebody about paying points, so I charge like $1,800. So there are my total closing cost, which is just the sum of that little area. Then you get into these prepaids, and I just you can set up a calculation, but I think it's got 1,800 in there, so I probably used 1,500 probably for my calculation. But you can punch numbers and you can create a calculation. I've done it both ways, but I put in 1,800. Here's my prepaid interest, which is going to look funky, but it's B5, which is the loan amount, times 0.7. So I'm going to change this to 0.625. Divided by 365 times 15. So there's my prepaid interest.
What's the 15 on that number? Just curious.
What's the 15th? We're going to close on the 15th.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
I mean, again, I hit it as a general number because they just need to know that they're going to have to pay interest. And
Mhm.
if numbers get really tight, then I can adjust that number so that we know when to close based on how much money they have or need.
That's great.
I don't run any mortgage insurance, y'all. I'm clueless when it comes to mortgage insurance, so talk to your lender if you need to put that number in there. In a payment, it's generally like 50, 75, 100, depends on it. And then I've got taxes to escrow. And what I do is I just take whatever the amount is, divide it by 12 and multiply it by 6 months. And that's how I came up with that number. So you can again put a calculation in, but I didn't here. So there you can see the total closing costs are those two numbers. So here's their down payment, which it got from up here. So I've got $50,000 for my down payment. Then it picked up my closing cost as closing cost and prepaid. So it added it up 11,000, which seems kind of high to me, but maybe it's because I've got those points in there. And then I've got lender credit. I don't always know what a lender credit's going to be, but then they paid 2,000 earnest money. So on closing day, they should be right about that, $59,000, 867. And that's with me bringing that $2,000 to closing. So, and there's my calculation. Then I will go into my payment calculator and I'll run different payment scenarios for them based on this scenario. And if we want to look at other scenarios, then I can just copy and paste my columns. And then I go down here and I change my payment number so that they can know. But anyway, again, it's all based on calculations. It's all based on certain things that don't change. And then let's say they're like, you know what, I think I'm going to put more money down because somebody's going to give me a gift. Then all of a sudden that changes and it should increase that number because they're bringing more money to the down payment. But then I'm going to change my payment account. I haven't gotten it to where it'll calculate payment. I just type in the payment from my own payment calculator. I should, but I just haven't done that.
Tyanne, one thing I noticed too is that just for food for thought out there, that wow, it could be such a big difference tax from one city to the next. And some of them
Yeah.
you would never dream would be expensive.
Yeah.
Like I think Jackson is like really super expensive. I'm not sure that was the one it was, but I was like, what, really? But Danville is much more expensive than
Yes.
than Somerset, Kentucky. I'm just saying there's so much more. It's almost not double, but quite
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. And so the taxes to escrow, I'll usually take whatever the purchase price is and multiply it by the tax rate, 1.26. The other thing is you've got to take into consideration if there are city and county taxes, you know, or if it's just all county. Like I'm in the city, so I pay city and county taxes. But if you're just in the county, you're just going to be charged the county taxes. So just know if you're in the city, then you're going to pay city and county, I believe. I
Is
think
that
it
like
adds
that
together.
Everywhere in Kentucky, at least?
I don't know. I'm in Jessamine County, so I pay a Jessamine County city tax. It's lower, and then I pay the Jessamine County tax. Because I'm in the county, but I'm also in the city. So you pay both. Whereas if you're just county. But does that help? Again, it's the same idea as far as a worksheet. Certain numbers don't change. Of course, they're going to change. Over the years, they may change a little bit, but it's just putting those calculations in. It's not often, when I do a buyer interview, I will generally take this type of worksheet with me so that they can see, and I might generalize it and make it for 250,000. And then show them what it looks like with different down payments. Because generally, those closing costs are not going to change a whole lot. They're going to stay pretty close to the same. If I already know they're going to be looking in Fayette County, or, I mean, the things that are going to change are the taxes. And, I mean, that's really it. Taxes are only going to be the things that are going to change their payment and their closing cost when you just use these general numbers, but they shouldn't be too far out of whack. And like this one, I have points in there, and I generally don't include points unless, you know, somebody's paying those points. So taking those out, it changes too. But do y'all see how that helps? Do y'all feel like this helps you when you go and talk to buyers and sellers, just knowing?
Absolutely. I definitely want this one too.
Yeah.
In Excel.
I've got it, you know, on this worksheet that should help with calculations, but you can pick up any one of your closing sheets. Like sometimes I'll think, oh, cash, let's see, I need to go back and look and see what's due on cash. Yeah. And
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
I've been doing, is going back and looking at old
Yeah.
HUDs.
Yeah, so that it helps with that. But you know, if anybody needs help, you know, figuring out like a financial worksheet, whether it's Excel numbers or whatever, please reach out to me, or I don't know if anybody else can tell you, but you can always Google, like, you know, how to do certain things, and it'll tell you. But I'm more than happy to show you how my calculations work and how they can be changed. But it does make life a lot easier. And I think just the knowledge of it, just knowing conversationally what something's going to look like, helps your buyers and your sellers. And again, we're not responsible for having this signed or knowing it, but it sure adds value and helps when you're talking to your buyers and sellers and helping them answer questions. I think the biggest key is when I have somebody that wants to sell and wants to buy and wants to know what that's going to look like.